We saw that Paul warns us to not to boast, to be proud, to beware, to be careful, even to fear. And I'd like just to go once more over these verses where it says, "Note then the kindness and the cutting severity of God towards those who have fallen, cutting severity, to you, however, God's kindness. If now you stay, you abide in His kindness, you will have the kindness of God, otherwise you too will be cut off. And they, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in again." Because the God of Israel has the power to graft them in again. For if you were cut from what is by nature a wild olive tree and grafted contrary to nature into the good olive tree. Now, you already know what kal vachomer is. What is a conclusion from the smaller to the bigger. Paul here uses this hermeneutical, this exegetical trick again. He says, now, if you were grafted in contrary to nature, and they, the natural branches, were cut off, how much more? How much more will these natural branches be grafted back into their own olive tree? Do you understand what Paul says here? If we as Gentiles are being saved, if we as Gentiles found Messiah Yeshua, if that was possible, then this says something about Israel and about the salvation of Israel. And it says something about God's plan with Israel. You can conclude from looking into the mirror and seeing yourself and say, I'm a Christian. That's how we've been called today. I'm a believer in Jesus. I'm a follower of Jesus. I want to be obedient to Him. I want to live with Him, to be used by Him as His tool. I want to be in a trusting, loving relationship with Him. If all that is true about you and about me, how much more this will be true about the natural branches. So, if you're concerned about your own salvation, look at Israel. Israel actually, if God comes to a conclusion with His nation of Israel, this is the most encouraging thing that can happen to us. Because, for example, by bringing the Jewish people back into the land of Israel, as He promised generations, hundreds of years, thousands of years ago, if He does that, this shows that there is a real firm foundation on which I stand. You see, it is very, very much connected that these natural branches are being saved. And we have to be clear. We have to be very clear, because sometimes people, and I hear that in Christian congregations, are so strict about Israel that they say, yes, we are saved and we, I don't know, go to heaven or be with Jesus, but the Jewish people. If there is any doubt about whether Israel will be saved, yes or no, then your and mine salvation also is in question. And if you don't know whether that is true, take Jeremiah 31, for example, towards the end of the chapter. Jeremiah there, but it is something I think Paul had in his mind when he talked about all these things, that Jeremiah there says, look at the sun, look at the moon. If these orders with sun and moon and the sea and the earth, if these are shaken, then Israel will not be a nation anymore before me. But as long as you see the sun and the moon, as long as you see that this is being held together, you can be sure, absolutely sure, that those natural branches, there's a future for them, and that they are a nation before God.